The country of Jordan is such a misunderstood place. Sitting in the heart of the Middle East, it's been at a crossroads for millennia. I recently visited Jordan on a 2-week trip and I absolutely loved the country. And in many ways, it really challenged a lot of misconceptions that I'd heard about it previously. So here are some of the misconceptions or lies that people believe about Jordan and my debunks. So number one, let's talk about the weather. A common myth that you'll hear about Jordan is that it is warm all the time. This is not the case. And take our trip as an example. We visited Jordan in February, and to be honest, in hindsight, I probably wouldn't recommend visiting in this month. It was relatively warm in Amman during the day when the sun was out. The Dead Sea was really nice and warm. Wadi Rum was warm in the day but very cold in the night. But Petra, the King's Highway and the eastern deserts were freezing. It's now mid-March and I checked the weather the other day for this upcoming weekend and it's 28 degrees in Petra now, so it does change quite quickly. But if you are visiting in the winter, you might be lucky and get mild weather. There might be lots of sunshine, but it also might be raining, very cold, bitingly cold winds, and it might even snow. When we were there, they were expecting a snowstorm in a few days, which never actually transpired properly. I think there was a little bit of snow in Amman. But yeah, it was cold in places. And that day in Petra, I was freezing. I did have a bit of winter clothes, but not as much like hardcore stuff as I would have taken somewhere else. And there was just this really cold wind chill. So yeah, definitely remember that it's not going to be warm all the time and pack for the weather for the season that you're visiting. Number two is that you can't visit the country during Ramadan. I'm a member of a Facebook group about travelling in Jordan, and a lot of people have said, is it still worth them going in Ramadan, which is happening right now? Should they cancel their trips, etc.? And I wasn't personally there in Ramadan, but I've been to a lot of Muslim countries during Ramadan and I spoke to a lot of people in Jordan about this. And while a lot of restaurants, like local restaurants, will close during the day during Ramadan, they will be open at night. If you have breakfast at a hotel, it usually will still be included, but do double check. And restaurants in tourist areas will generally stay open. Also, about 6% of Jordan's population is Christian, so Christian-owned restaurants will be open as well. And if you do visit during Ramadan, you can also enjoy iftar, which is such a lovely experience. Like I said, I've not experienced it in Jordan, but I have experienced it in Cairo, and it's one of my favourite Cairo memories. We walked down through one of the souks and everyone was breaking their fast and people were so welcoming and generous, and we got some falafel wraps to sort of have when everyone was breaking their fast, and it was a really lovely experience. There's also lots of other really nice things happening during Ramadan and Eid as well. So it definitely is worth visiting. Most tourist attractions will be business as usual, although some will have reduced opening hours, but the main sites like Petra, Wadi Rum tours, etc., that will all stay open. The one thing that might be limited, I'm not 100%, but it could be the case, this is the sale of alcohol, which brings me on to lie number 3. And lie or misconception number 3 is that Jordan is a dry country and you can't get alcohol anywhere. This is not true. So in a lot of the smaller places, then yes, you won't be able to get alcohol. And a lot of the smaller restaurants you go to, they won't serve alcohol on the menu. They'll serve juice or tea or soft drinks. But there are plenty of places in the cities where you can get alcohol. So for example, in Amman, we went to a rooftop bar called Cantaloupe. There's also a wine tasting experience in Amman. There's vineyards, and in lots of hotels you'll be able to get a drink as well. And in some of the other cities, definitely in like the city of Madaba, it's 20% Christian, so you will be able to get alcohol there. I'm not too sure of the rules surrounding alcohol during Ramadan. If anyone knows, please drop a comment below. But they could change a little bit because I know that they do in Egypt. By the way, I've written a full list of Jordan travel tips that I wrote while I was there, racking my brains to try and think of everything that I could say about this country. If you're interested in checking that out, then scan this QR code or head to the description where there will be a link. Next misconception is that you need to book a tour to experience Jordan. So there are lots of guided tours in Jordan, and while that is a good option for some who would prefer that travel style, it isn't for everyone. And if you don't want to do a tour, you don't have to do a tour. Myself and my partner travelled completely independently, and I'll go into safety a bit later on in this video, but we felt very safe. We rented a car and drove around. There are some bus options, although the buses are a little bit limited, but to get to the main sites you should be able to get around with bus. You can also do like shorter tours or organise like transfers and things like that. But yes, you don't have to do an organised tour if you don't want to. And I know a lot of places sort of sell them and say it's the best way to see Jordan, but if you do want to explore differently, then yeah, you don't have to do this big organised tour. But what I would recommend doing, where you can, is using local guides from different destinations that you're in. And this is great because you get real local knowledge. It helps to support the locals in wherever particular place, but you also still have the flexibility. We had local guides in Amman, in Petra, and we were at Azraq Castle in the east of the country, and we found a guide who was happy to just show us around the castle for like 5 Jordanian dinar, I think. So yeah, we got all of our insight through that. We did actually travel around independently. And this leads me on a bit to my next misconception, and that is that you can see Jordan in 5 days. So I did actually think this was the case when I first went out there. I thought, oh yeah, everyone just goes to Jordan for quite a short time. They just go to Wadi Rum, Petra, maybe a day in Amman, and then down to the Dead Sea. This is not the case. There is so much more to see in Jordan. And honestly, we were there for 2 weeks and we didn't see everything that we wanted to. But I do think we made quite a good attempt. We were very, very busy. So some of the other things that you can see are Azraq and their east, including all the desert castles. There's Qais, which is a lovely like Mediterranean feeling village, which is right up in the northwest of the country. There's Al Jamal, which is Jordan's most recent UNESCO World Heritage Site. Karak Castle. There's Madaba, which I mentioned before, which is a Christian city. So yeah, there's loads and loads more to see. And I would really recommend at least like 10 days to do the country justice. We spent like 4 days or 4 nights in Amman because there's quite a lot to see in the capital too. So this kind of brings me on to the next misconception, which is that Jordan is all desert. So I know that when a lot of people think of Jordan and the Middle East in general, they do think of desert. That is what it kind of can be synonymous with, but actually Jordan has loads of different microclimates and loads of different terrains. So the east is desert and the south is desert, but they look very different. So the east is like a basalt desert, which is like volcanic rock, and then in the south it's the more traditional red sand desert. There's also this Mediterranean little pocket up in the north. Up there it's only about 50 miles from the Mediterranean Sea. The Dead Sea is just like a law unto its own. It's 400 metres below sea level. It's always quite warm, and yeah, it just completely has its own climate. Then there's the mountains that back onto the Dead Sea, and these go up to 1,000 meters, so these can be very different climate as well, and also very different scenery. So Jordan honestly has a huge diversity in terrains. The next misconception is that Amman is not worth visiting. Amman has loads to do. Amman is a really fascinating city. It's actually one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world. So you can go to the Citadel and learn all about that. You can also do a food tour with a guy called Omar from Free J Expeditions. I'll put all his details in the description, and eat some of the most delicious Jordanian food. It's also like a cultural tour, so it will be a really good intro to Jordan. And we just hanging about in Amman. It's a nice, friendly city, felt very safe. Everyone was super, super lovely. You could definitely spend quite a few days eating through and not run out of restaurants. Another misconception that I wanted to talk about is Petra. So a lot of people think that Petra is like the treasury and that's like the thing to see. And while that is definitely like the money shot, there is also so much in Petra. Petra is huge. We were walking through it for like 4 hours and we only just scratched the surface. So go and see the treasury, definitely. That is like an absolute bucket list tick. But also walk on the treasury and you'll see loads of other like caves, dwellings, engravings. You'll see a theatre, you'll see a marketplace. Like, there's so much in it. It's so well preserved. There's also hiking trails around Petra as well. So if we'd had the time, I would have loved to do something like that, but unfortunately we didn't. So you definitely can't see Petra in just a couple of hours. I feel like sometimes on these like organised tours, they try and just put Petra like in an afternoon, but definitely at least a full day to give it justice. We actually did an afternoon and then a morning, and we only saw the main tourist trail. There's definitely so much more to see. Right, my last 2 tips are going to be about safety. So first misconception, or the first like question I had when I said I was going to Jordan was people just like, is it safe there? So first let's talk about street safety. So safety, you know, this is like your everyday when you're in Jordan, when you're walking around, how safe is it? Literally safer than pretty much everywhere in Europe, probably everywhere in Europe. I felt so much safer walking around Amman than I feel walking around London. I had my camera out, I was filming, and I didn't feel in any way vulnerable, which I do feel like in London. And The people are so friendly and so welcoming. I've said this a million times, but I have to keep stressing it because it's true and I really want more people to realise this. They have like hospitality, like it's such a big thing in Jordan, and people really want tourists to their country to feel welcome. So honestly, wherever we went, we were welcomed. People would stop to chat to us. People would ask us if we needed any help. I didn't experience any situations from anyone that made me feel unsafe. I was there with my partner. I wasn't there as a solo female, but I did do a couple of walks around as a solo female. And again, nothing would made me feel unsafe at all. So I honestly would say Jordan is one of the safest places I've ever visited. Now let's talk about geopolitically and Jordan's like position in the world and in the Middle East. So Jordan is of course right in the heart of the Middle East. And of course there are countries around Jordan that it is unadvised to go to. Jordan has a border with Palestine, it also has a border with Israel, it also has a border with Syria and with Iraq. I don't think the border with Iraq causes any issues. It is recommended that you don't travel within, I think, 5 kilometres of the border with Syria. This is the UK FCDO recommendations. Every country has their own different ones, so check your countries. But you don't really need to go that close to the border with Syria. That's not where any of the tourist sites or anything to do is. Also, Syria is getting safer and safer by the day anyway, and even at the height of all the issues in Syria, they didn't really affect Jordan. And this was, you know, I'm talking about like 8 years ago. These days, whatever's going on in Syria, which I'm not an expert in, I need to do a bit more research into, whatever's going on does not affect Jordan. So let's talk about Palestine. So Jordan is on the East Bank side of the Jordan River, at a point in Jordan when we were about 5 metres away from West Bank. It is close, but there is still a border there. And I think that is an important thing to talk about. So there's a border, there's a hard border between Jordan and West Bank, and sort of after you have West Bank and then you have Israel, and there's a border there as well. Jordan and Israel do not have any conflict. They have a peace treaty. At no point in my time in Jordan did I feel at any way threatened or at any way at risk because of this proximity. There are some absolutely awful, horrific things going on in West Bank that words cannot even, you can't even put it into words about some of the horrors that are going on there. These issues don't spill over into Jordan because there's a border, because of this peace treaty. It just doesn't spill over into Jordan. And I don't think that not going to Jordan is the answer because of this proximity. Even though, for example, we were in the Dead Sea and we could see West Bank, and it did make me feel quite subdued and quite sombre just knowing the horrors that were going on there and knowing how immensely privileged I was sitting on the other side, sitting by the pool. But equally, I don't think that not going to Jordan is the answer because it is safe. And this is my report, but it's also the report of hundreds and thousands of people who have visited Jordan in the last few years. Tourism in Jordan is down 90%, and a lot of people are struggling. A lot of people are desperately trying to make ends meet. A lot of people have lost businesses, lost jobs. In doing whatever little bit I can, I am donating 10% of my profits that I make from all of the ads in my Jordan videos to various charities in Gaza and Palestine. So if you want to see more details about those, then please do check out the description. But in both regards, I would say that Jordan is safe. And I think this is the biggest misconception that it is struggling with at the moment, and is why tourism has gone down so much, and is something that really needs to be talked about because it's one of the most welcoming, incredible countries I've ever visited, and it deserves more tourists. And I really, the people deserve more tourists. The people deserve their businesses to be successful again. They deserve their jobs back. So I do feel quite passionately about talking about that. I do talk about it a lot more in my vlogs, so if you haven't watched any of those, then please do give them a watch. I will link a few in the description and in the video. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments if you've visited Jordan or if it is on your list. And if you're sticking around, check out one of these vlogs from my time in Jordan. Thank you so much, and I hope I'll see you next time.